And the one I'm going to show you now really could be a contender for my favourite Streptocarpus of all time, today at least. And we are in. Okay, so we're going to have a look at my Streptocarpus collection. It's mid-July now, so we're talking midsummer, and we're going to have a little tour around them and see how they're looking. They should be looking at their absolute best at this time of year, but actually they're a little bit jaded, and the reason for that is, as you can see down here from the thermometer, it's currently 32 degrees in the cooler, quotation marks, cooler side of the greenhouse, and it's 33 degrees over in the warmer side. And despite all the shading and the fact that I've got fans going, which I've of course turned off for this video, and I've got a fogger going, and all the louvre windows open, the double doors open as well. I've also got 2 lots of shading up, 3 if you count the horticultural fleece that I've left up there. I've left that up actually because it does provide a little bit of protection from bugs coming in. I could really do with something for this front door as well, because I do get bugs in. I mean, I've got pros and cons with that, because one of the cons, of course, is that once the bugs come in, they've no way out unless they know the way to a front door. And of course they then start munching my plants. But the good thing is that when you've got carnivorous plants, it gives them a little bit of a treat. So anyway, we are looking at my Cape Primrose. Why are they called Cape Primrose? Well, that's obviously a synonym, a common name for them. And it's one of those things that came about when they were first kind of discovered, again in quotation marks, and people thought they looked a bit like a primula, or from the primula family, but they have absolutely nothing to do with the primula family. They're not related whatsoever. So we're going to have a look around the Streptocarpus. Okay, so they are actually struggling in this heat. So we're going to have a look around what I've got at the moment, see what's in bloom, see what's not doing so well in the heat. Then we're going to have a talk about the care requirements for the summer months, because it is obviously slightly different to what you do in the winter months. So I'm going to start off with this one down here, mainly because it's not looking that great. This is one that's won all sorts of awards. This is Streptocarpus Harlequin Blue. Absolutely lovely blooms, and it's really ready for a repot, but I'm not going to repot it until the winter months. That will come better, I think, during this period, this flowering period. We have the lovely Streptocarpus Pink Leyla over here. Again, a lot of these blooms are going over a little bit prematurely because of the heat. This one it's flopping a little bit. This one's Streptocarpus Bethan. And there's a slightly better example of Streptocarpus Bethan, looking particularly nice. These are absolutely great for the house and great for a greenhouse like mine if you can keep the temperatures down. We don't tend to get temperatures in the 30s for very much. One of the crystal ice varieties that's here, that will carry on blooming right the way through the year, even though I tend to stop it when it gets round to the winter months. And it's just coming, when you've got all these blooms on it, looks absolutely stunning. A really gorgeous example over here of Streptocarpus Katie. This one's got a ton of blooms on. I think what you find with Streptocarpus, or I certainly find in my conditions, is that once you get to a pot that size, so that is about 10 to 15 centimetres, probably more like 15 centimetres. That's the size where they really, really take off. Anything smaller and you're only talking like a really few amount of blooms, like 2 or 3 blooms, that's what we're aiming for, that kind of plant size. I tend to get that on the 3rd year. Again, that might be more to do with my conditions. You might be lucky and get it in a little bit earlier. I've got lots of duplicates of these things, like there's another one down there, another Katie, and I find that they do come into their own at different times of the year, different months of the year. So we're talking about different hybrids are better at different times of the year. So this one is Polka-dot Purple. That's looking good. Again, it's a bigger specimen. Looking at some of the smaller ones again, so that's only like an 8 centimetre pot. So that's Harlequin Purple. This is the first blooming for this one. That's Harlequin Lace. Again, a very small one, only a small number of blooms on it. That one's Harlequin Dawn. Nice flower there. And that one is Motyl or Motyl. Hot chocolate hasn't bloomed yet. This is imaginatively titled DS1126, so that one's not bloomed for me yet. And I've got 1 or 2 others which they're only in small pots, but they're quite new. This is the 2nd year for these, so it shows that they can take quite a while for them to really get going. I think, and I've been told this by several people, that if they come in one of those peat pots, they can be a little bit shy of breaking out of them. So what I've started doing now when I get these things is just snipping the side of the pot gently. I didn't spot this one, did I? This one is Falling Stars. That's another quite a nice one. So just looking up here, this is slightly different, and unfortunately you've just caught it when the blooms just haven't quite opened out on it. So this one is saxorum, and you can see this looks very, very different to the other streps that I've got. This is actually a species plant. This is a Streptocarpella, and you can see that it was in the sun. It was like more in the sun than it is now, and you can see some of these leaves have browned off, so I've moved it. So I do expect that this will start to come back quite strongly. In fact, you can see the new growth is a lot nicer. It's a lot fresher green. But this is like a trailing plant, and I will talk in a while about these stemmed varieties compared to the rosette varieties. Move over to the other side and have a look at what we missed over here, if there's anything any different. So you've seen that one, you've seen that one. So this one is Harlequin Sapphire. Let's just zoom in on that again. Some of these blooms are going over simply because it's so hot. What else have we got? We've got Titania here, looking very nice. One of my favourites, the Kalahari. This did have a load of blooms on it just yesterday, and then just again the heat has just made them go over. You can see it's flopping already, and that one probably, there you go, that one's ready for coming off now. So I'll just toss that to one side. Nice big leaf on that one, look at that. That does look really, really nice, and that is still in a reasonably small pot. When that goes to its next size up, that one is going to be a real stunner of a plant with way, way bigger blooms than what you normally get on a Streptocarpus. So up here we've got my only unifoliate that I've got. That means it has one leaf, as you can imagine. All the others are plurifoliates. That takes a little bit of practice. So that is one of the Streptocarpus species. I think this is Streptocarpus dunnii. So this is one that only ever gets one leaf. It's quite floppy. That's ready for another. Although it does look quite damp. I think it's just the fact that it's so hot in here. They actually come from Drakensberg Mountains, the shaded woody areas, the foresty areas. They do like bright light, but they do not like heat. They don't like to be in the sun. Any kind of direct sun is going to cause them to flop. But one of their superpowers is that when they do wilt, they do actually come back very, very quickly. So this is a unifoliate, and it's actually a monocarpic unifoliate. I've only recently found that out. So that means, unfortunately, that once it's bloomed and set seed, it dies, which isn't particularly good. The blooms do look really nice, and it can stay in this state for 2 or 3 years, maybe even slightly more, before it does bloom. However, and you'll notice there's no stem on this, this is one of the stemless varieties. However, once it sets seed, and it actually sets quite a number of seed, I believe, they do germinate very, very quickly. So it's not like you're going to be without them. So that's something, it's really just like a curiosity. I thought I'd try it and see what happens. So over down here, we've got all the babies. So all those babies down there, they're a mixture of cuttings that I've taken, and that's something else that's really good about strep, is that they take from cuttings, or they propagate from cuttings very, very, very easily. And what I'm intending to do as time goes on is remove some of these where I've got loads of duplicates and replace them with some new varieties, so I've got lots and lots of interest rather than just the same thing, and maybe swap them with some people. So as I said earlier, you're not really seeing them at their absolute best. You normally would, and I would say just over a week ago when the temperatures weren't like they are now, then they were looking at their best then. But this last few days it's been so hot in here that they are complaining a little bit. It's not that they're not getting the water, they're getting plenty of water, they're getting plenty of humidity, it's just too darned hot. Yeah, so I mentioned the broadly 2 different kinds of groups. So you've got the plurifoliates and the unifoliates. So the streps that you're normally used to seeing, these kinds of things, they have like a rosette, they are perennial, they don't have stems, as opposed to the unifoliate, the Streptocarpus dunnii, and that is only one species. There are other unifoliates that tend to only have one leaf. Occasionally they can have 2 or 3, I believe, and they are monocarpic in that they will die off once they have set seed. This is one of the Streptocarpellas, which is a subspecies. African violets are also a subspecies of Streptocarpus. Now, it looks absolutely nothing like the usual rosette sort of Streptocarpus. Most of the hybrids that you will see see are actually the rosette forms of Streptocarpus. You don't see many hybrids from the Streptocarpellas, although there are some if you look around. And yes, of course, they are also used as houseplants.